Hello, my love. Welcome to another episode of Blisstopia podcast. I'm your host, Mercedes Castellani, and I am so happy to be recording this episode because we're going to talk about one of the topics that I'm absolutely most passionate about in life, one of the motivations for changing my career. And I know that this is going to resonate with so many of you because so many of us have this need for freedom. So today we're going to talk about freedom lifestyle, nomadic life, if that's something that you want at some point. And today I'm going to be interviewing Julia Kallweit. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Correct. Julia is a transformational and business coach, founder, community architect based in Cape Town, South Africa. She's certified through the Institute of Coaching Mastery, serving as a head coach at the Digital Nomad Life Academy. I had the chance to work with them this week and give a conference for them, so that was really fun. And she helps aspiring entrepreneurs break through limitations and build businesses that are aligned with their purpose. So what Julia and I do is very much aligned. And I think we're going to have a beautiful conversation today. She founded back in 2016 the Wi-Fi Tribe. Need to take note of this name because what they're doing is absolutely amazing. And she has been living and working remotely for over a decade in 70 countries. And she has a bunch of story to tell. So we're going to have a lot of fun together. And for the little story and context, Julia and I met in 2010, 2011. I don't remember the exact year, but something around that, a long time ago, 15 years ago or something. And we were part of student conferences for very ambitious students, business students. And we could clearly see that some of these amazing people in there would go into entrepreneurship or would go into very successful corporate careers. So Julia went directly into entrepreneurship. I went to the corporate career, then joined her in entrepreneurship. Here we are. That's the context for how Julia and I met. So welcome, Julia, to the show. It's a pleasure to have this chat with you.
Thank you so much, Mercedes. I wasn't even aware that's been such a long time, but it's been 15 years. Wow. I'm like,
Time flies by.
time flies. Yeah, but I love that we're reconnected and here together right now. So yeah, excited for this episode.
Amazing, amazing. So I want to start with your story because you have a very unconventional story. Maybe 15 years ago, this was very unconventional. Now more and more people are joining this club. But I'm very curious about your story. How did you decide to go into this freedom lifestyle and even a nomadic lifestyle at some point?
I really love that you're calling it a club. It's currently I feel like there's clubs opening up for anything, like social clubs, outdoor clubs. But I love having a freedom lifestyle clubs. Yes, how did it start? When we met, I was studying in Cologne in Germany, media and communication management, and I did love the topic. I wasn't a huge fan of sitting in a room there and just learning by listening. That wasn't me. So I soaked up all the content, about what I'm learning, especially around online marketing, and transformed it into a little freelance career. It's okay, whatever I'm learning here right now, I already can help people doing that. So for some reason, I stumbled into clients. I found someone in e-commerce area and started product managing for that person. Word of mouth started spreading, and suddenly I found myself at 22 years old, 21 years old, having my own business already and earning a decent amount of money before I even graduated university. And I was okay, do I really need that degree? And I figured whenever I didn't know something, I was Googling it and all the knowledge was out there. And it's okay, if I don't have to be in an office and I'm already working from home, so why not take that to a different country, because I would love to travel. So then in 2013, I decided, okay, cool. I just had my tiny little laptop. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it was these small Lenovo's, and they're it was a little white one. It was half the size of a MacBook currently. And it was so cute. So I took that with me. I was okay, what's the smallest, the thinnest laptop you can find that fits in a backpack? And then I booked my first ticket to South Africa. And I traveled to South Africa, also at some point, writing my thesis and sending the thesis to my parents for them to print it out and send it to the university. And and then I just kept traveling for about 2 years. As you probably know already, when you're traveling, you're always surrounded by people that on vacation, holiday. And at that time, 2013, 2014, it was very, very unusual to see someone sit there with a laptop at a hostel bar, whatever it is, having a rave or a party, whatever it is, because that's the age that I was in. And I earned a lot of weird looks. And it's people feeling sorry for me sitting there. I'm I feel sorry for you because you have to go back. I don't have to go back. But obviously, if you do that for a decent amount of time, you're just craving community. You're craving these like-minded people that like you can talk about business with and exchange ideas and inspire and creatives. And I didn't have that. That was the start when I was like, okay, let's look further into community. What do we need for it? And that's when, like, you know him as well, my co-founder Diego and I reconnected, and we decided to run our first co-living, co-working experience in Bolivia, and found 10 people to do so. And then just like continued and never stopped, had like thousands of people joining us, and we hosted locations in like 100 different countries. And yeah, it's like suddenly now, after, well, not suddenly, but after like 10 years, the whole digital nomad lifestyle, remote work, remote professionals, expats has exploded, and technology as well that allows you to do that. So yeah, very exciting to see that flourishing, but also for having been there at like the roots when everything started and like watching it grow. So yeah, it's
So
amazing.
beautiful. Yeah, and you were one of the among the first who went into this lifestyle. And as you
Mm,
said, people were giving weird looks, and today would be something completely normal. We go to a cafe in Thailand, Bali, people
right,
are working, and that's just like,
exactly.
I think especially after COVID, like something clicked during COVID, and people were like, we can do, I think it reached the masses, we've tipped into that point when
Mhm.
it reached the masses, and the masses realized, oh, I can actually do this from wherever, and the businesses are still running. Corporations also realize we can have people remote and this still works, and we can save a lot of
Exactly.
money. So it became more mainstream, but it's
Mhm.
so beautiful to see that you were there in the beginning when you were early birds adopting this kind of lifestyle.
Founding fathers.
So I'm really curious about how was it for you during those 10 years? It was a long time that you were a
Mm.
nomad. What was that life like? Because I think there's also maybe a glamorized view on that nomadic lifestyle, or is it as glamorous as we think that it is?
Me taking a deep breath right now. Okay, so there's obviously the beautiful side of it. Like, you're connecting with people from all over the world, you're meeting new cultures, you're having new experiences, new restaurants, new foods, new cities, and ticking off all these like bucket list things that you see on Instagram and people are raving about. It's like, oh, you must do this and you must do this. And then it's like, but what are you actually chasing? And I mean, people say like if you're like traveling nonstop, you're chasing something. And I wouldn't say so. I say very often we do that to actually avoid something. In my case, it was avoiding negative emotions. I personally never really learned what like my emotions are. It's nothing that I got from home. Like, I come from a very protected home. I had everything physically that I needed. Like, I felt safe. But at the same time, my family didn't know really how to cater for my emotional needs. So I didn't even know that in my 20s how to do it for myself when I was traveling. So what I've been doing is like I've been chasing the things. I've been chasing the new friends, new experiences, and always like that high, that adrenaline spike that you get from like having something new and something exciting. But whenever it quieted down, I felt a lot of anxiety, and keeping doing that for years over years up to like it was a point for me like 2019 where I just had a burnout.
Mhm.
I like literally was like laying on my bed and incapable of to move and just like crying. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I decided to step back from running the chapters. So every Wi-Fi Tribe experience has like 1 month long chapters, and decided to step away from that. And it's like I can't do it anymore because it's not healthy for me right now. I need to like fill my own cup. And I see a lot of people struggling with that actually. People also from that get travel burnout. Believe it or not, that's something real. Like, if you hop around too many locations at the same time.
Mm.
And as my therapist would say, every time you move away from like a location, especially once you grounded yourself in it and you like plugged into that environment, you are traumatizing yourself.
Mm.
Maybe a little trauma, maybe a bigger trauma, depending on how well connected you are. But every time you move into a new place, you have to figure out, what's my routine like? What foods can I eat? Where can I work from? What's the Wi Fi? What kind of friends do I have here? Are there communities to plug in? What's the next gym? And all these things, like every time you move, you have to figure them out.
Mm.
And at the beginning, it's super exciting. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love traveling. I love doing that. Also, like, still now I love to go on a trip, but doing it for 12 months, a year
Mm.
has been very consuming for me. And some people might be able to still do it. I do believe though, like, if you integrate more healthy, holistic practices to be more present and more in the moment. That can really help. But that's also the reason why people start slowing down as soon as they've been like on the road for a few years. Like at the
Hmm.
beginning, okay, you can also stop me anytime here. So like I feel like I'm on a little rant right now.
Please, please, please go ahead. We're all
So
super curious about this.
I think personally, I just came up with something that is called digital nomad levels. So if you go into this whole, like, I want to travel and see the world thing, you just came out of your corporate job, or you're coming from university and it's like, cool, I want to travel and see the world. Every week, every 2 weeks, I want to go somewhere different. I want to hop around. I want to meet people. I want to do all the things. Very quickly, though, you're going to notice that that's something that is not sustainable. So you're going to slow down. Say, okay, cool, let's move maybe every 3 to 4 weeks to a different location. So then you move like every 3 to 4 weeks, different hostel, depending on your budget. You're in a bunk bed or you can stay somewhere else. Maybe you're a little bit older already and you can afford an Airbnb. But you're going to notice that you very quickly become lonely on the road, despite
Hmm.
being surrounded by so many people, so many travelers you meet at the bar, maybe travel experiences you do, groups, like you go on a city tour. You're always surrounded by people, but you might feel lonely. So then I would say level 3 is you want to have a community. And that's where we're often, when people found Wi-Fi Tribe, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to travel alone anymore. I want to travel with people, and ideally with people I see in different locations and can
Hmm.
keep traveling with them. And there's other beautiful ones out there. There's like Hacker Paradise, there is Remote Ear, there is Nomad Cruise. There's so many other companies that do similar things and really give you this wholesome experience of a community.
Hmm.
Now, level 4 is you've been with the community a lot and then like overindulging in it. And then someone's like, I need one-on-one time right
I need to
now.
be alone.
It's too much. It's always, I feel whatever it is in life, it's always about the balance. It's like, it's not just do, or it's not be. It's always like do. So it's like you're
Hmm.
having that balance. And it's with anything. It's with like work and filling your own cup. It's with like alone time and being with people. It's with like eating super healthy and then suddenly wanting to indulge, It's like there's always that like balance. But it's the same for like traveling. And so level number 5, people probably stay for like 3 months in one location, because the slower you travel, the more you can stay, more ground yourself, more be with people around you. And then also have a chance to maybe have like your own apartment, but then choose communities on the ground that you want to connect with, or you coordinate with the friends that you already made the past years and
Hmm.
coordinate, okay, how can we see each other without being on our toes all the time? Which
Hmm.
is really beautiful right now. So I'm based in Cape Town, and Cape Town is a place where very often people between the end of December to April come here, as it's like summer on the southern hemisphere and winter in the northern hemisphere, to escape winter. And I have a lot of my friends that I made from my travels that come to Cape Town, which is beautiful. And as much as I love every single one of them, I'm also very happy when it quiets down. Then after April, it's like, okay, less birthdays, bucket list things for people to do that never been here. No, but it's lovely. I mean, I feel if you choose that lifestyle, or like being nomadic, it's something that sticks with you, but not in the sense of like moving around, but more around that having the freedom and time and of location to choose where you want to be and how you want to spend your time.
And I think that's freedom, right? Being able to say, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it.
Exactly.
And at some point, it's very interesting. And thank you so much for sharing all of this and all of these levels, because I can really
Mm.
see how it can be amazing and then it's too much and you need to change. And it's amazing and then it's too much and you need to change. And it's like you're always evolving and trying to find your own balance. But I think that's freedom, listening to yourself and being able to say, you know what, now I want to travel and I want to move. Now I want to connect and I'm going to connect. Now I want to be
Mhm.
alone, etc., etc. So depending on how you're feeling, priorities, I imagine that also priorities as we grow up will also evolve. So then we want to use that freedom in different ways. So
And how were your travel experiences? Did you ever travel like longer, or like how did you find community? Like how did you connect with people?
So for me, I had 12 years of corporate life. So that was very,
Mm.
inside of the box. So I had my holidays, da da da. I was working in France, so I had lots of holidays at that point. But still, it was very, inside of the box. And that was one of the main motivations alongside impact It was really impact and freedom, the two things that I was going after when I switched into my own business and being free. And now the way that when I was designing my dream life, I didn't see myself as a nomad with a backpack and a computer and moving, because I knew that that would, at least in the stage that I was, so I did this in my 30s, not in my 20s. And I was like, I feel like I need to be a bit more grounded. What the shape that it took for me and the shape that I designed for me is I have one base. In the beginning, it was Madrid. Now it's Paris. So I have a base, I have a home that I own or rent. So I do have a commitment to a place. But then I move a lot. So, for example, I was 6 weeks in Argentina with my family and it was summer over there. I came back. I went to Mallorca to organize a retreat. I came back. I'm going to have a trip to Barcelona, etc. Now I'm planning a trip to Asia and I don't have a limit on how much time I can be there. Maybe it's whatever, month and a half in Asia and I can go 1 month and a half. But I always kind of come back to my base, come back to my home, and that's something that I designed. I wanted to have a place and then move, have the freedom to move around, but kind of coming back to one place. And also I have a partner and he has a regular corporate job. So it's so far in 2 years from now, he will be able to work remotely. And I think at that point, we're going to get a whole new level of freedom as a family. But right now it's okay. It makes sense for me to come back to this point because also he's there and he's always there the whole year. So he can also travel and all of that. But I want to spend time with him. So the way I defined it and created it for me is having a base and then moving a lot with no restrictions. Whereas before I had restrictions on how many weeks and you need to come back on Saturday to work on Monday. And now I just take the flight that I want at the hour that I please and that feels good to my body, and not the ones that I need to take to come back to work. So that's
Isn't
the
that the
shape that it
best
took
thing?
for me.
Like, yeah, having just like the freedom to choose what to do with your time and how to organize yourself is like, I feel like the best feeling.
Yes, yes. And it's also a challenge. I don't know how it feels for you, but when you have so much freedom and you could literally do whatever you wanted. I don't know if at some point you had this feeling of like paralysis by analysis. You have so many options, so many countries, so many things you could do. You could stay, you could leave, you could find something in the middle. And sometimes it's difficult to position yourself and really asks you to go inside and to realize, okay, what's actually important for me, which are my values right now, what do I need right now, and then make a decision from that space. But it does require a lot of consciousness. How was that for you? Did you have sometimes too many options and you felt paralyzed, or you've always been able to listen to yourself and make the right decision for you?
When I was traveling on my own, I was just going with the flow. I was like, I am in one country, you meet new people, they tell you about something. And the beauty of it was I'm just like going to the next place and going to the next country, next border crossing, and have people tell me about their experiences. I often made plans of like what my priorities are and what I 100% want to do, but I kept it pretty open. But I think that's also like something you just like do in your 20s. You're just like, oh, see what happens. And then it moved over to, or it transitioned to Wi-Fi Tribe, where it was like organized travel. We have to provide travel experiences for people. So that was more like a fixed agenda, right? There's like, we did have different routes within Wi-Fi Tribe, or you can travel like through South America or Asia or Europe. So we could share our preferences with the team and then say, okay, like I rather want to do this or over this. It was somewhat like a fixed schedule of like where you're gonna be. And once I stopped doing that, it was more like, okay, cool. I just want to go where my friends are, because I feel I got all that travel out of my system of like the things that I 100% wanted to do and I wanted to see. Now it's more about the people. Also like realizing I can be in a spot that I really, really loved and it was so freaking fun. But then you go back to the spot without the people and it's like, wait, it's actually not that fun. And then realizing it is about the people you spend the time with. So then starting to prioritize those, especially when you're having a lot of international friends, it is very nice because both of you need to make an effort to see each other and make time for each other. And they come and travel to see you or the other way around. So I did make priorities around that of like who I want to have my closer friends and who I want to spend more time with. Spend a lot of time around Miami or even in the UK or in Bali, just because I know people were gathering there and then like organizing other trips. But right now, I would say with my travel, I'm the same as you, have a lease right now in Cape Town, and I love just venturing out even to the countryside here. Like it doesn't have to be the big travel anymore, but just like
Mm,
taking the time to go to the mountains or book a nice cabin by the sea and just like unplugging from the
mm,
city. And I'm really, really in love with my routine that I have. And maybe that's also because I haven't had a proper routine for like a very long time.
mm,
But I notice how much that means to me. And you asked like about like values earlier. So I think really like having the chance to stay connected to myself, focus on my growth, foster my curiosity, stay in touch with the people I love is like so important to me. It's so much easier when you're like in one spot.
mm.
And yeah, I also just know like I'm the healthiest if I have the chance to focus on my routine and like go to the gym and like try to like work out as much as I want to. Vivid social life and like see my friends on a regular basis rather than just like once or twice a year. And yeah, it's just nice to have a place, as you say, like plug and play, like a home base you can always come back to.
Absolutely. So you touched a little bit on values. So I
Mhm.
wonder, which are your values and how do you use your freedom to kind of cater and be more in contact with those values?
Definitely growth and curiosity. I think curiosity is one of my biggest ones because I just like love asking questions, love like getting to know more, learning, and that like leading to growth. That also like drives my creativity, I'd say. I'm also someone that draws a lot of energy from being surrounded by people. Like people inspire me. So that's why I love like definitely a people person, love to connect with them, hear their stories, whatever they say sparks an interest, sparks a new idea to a business. And also a reason why I'm looking for a lot of like different communities to be a part of because I feel that all the different communities reflect like a part of my character.
Mm,
Similar like when you're in a relationship and you can't just expect one partner to fulfill all your needs, but then rather like outsource it to different communities
mm,
and have one community maybe for kite surfing, one for diving, one for dancing, one for playing paddle, one is for like travel friends, one is for people eating out with. And it is so nourishing to have like an access to that all the time. And yeah, I think just like connection is like very, very important to me.
super important. Yes. And it's something that you've always prioritized when you
Mm.
had this nomadic, like very bubbly life. And now that you have a more stable life, it's also very important to you, the connections.
Yeah.
So, do you think that this nomadic lifestyle is just a phase, or have you met people who are doing this like for their whole life? What's your view on that?
I met people that have been doing it for like 20, 30 years. I even like know couples that travel nonstop and that like that's their way of living. I know families, they are embracing it. I think one of the biggest ones you can see out there is like the bucket list family.
Mm,
People from Hawaii with like three kids. And yeah, they just like travel the world with like in their summer holidays now instead of like doing it nonstop. I do believe that there's like a stable home and a stable social environment can be still like very important for kids. And
mm,
as I talked earlier about that moving around a lot can also cause trauma.
mm,
And I think I would be very mindful of that if like I would have kids,
mm,
but it's definitely possible. And I see people creating even communes for families that like want to travel together. Basically, you're like, let's say you have a farm and there's like five families on it and there's 10, 15 kids and they get like a homeschooling teacher and they're all living this life together. And maybe then like in that setup of like the five families, they move to a different country and
mm,
pick another country where they do the same thing, which is amazing because then you take your social environment, keep
mm,
that as like a stability and move it to a different place. Thing is like as like more families are part of it, the more you need to um, figure out logistics, and it
mm.
could be maybe like a little clash of where people want to go. But I think there's like lots of different ways if you want to make it happen. But there's definitely benefits of having a home base.
How do you see things for you? You had this nomadic lifestyle in your 20s. Now you're more stable in Cape Town. Do you plan
Mm.
to have children, for example, at some point? What would you like the future to hold for you?
I would definitely think stay in Cape Town at the moment, also because I'm building a different business over here that like requires my presence over here. So I'm definitely going to be here. Definitely looking for a partner to share life with. So if you know anyone out here
Who loves
looking,
freedom?
yeah, join Mercedes on Blisstopia. That's where you find your match.
Some women have.
Oh, really? Are you serious? That is so funny. Okay, well, maybe I'm next. Who knows? Single, ready to mingle. But yeah, I mean, family would be great, but I'm not making it a must right now. I feel like if it happens, it happens.
Mhm.
I'm surprisingly happy on my own right now. Not saying like I wouldn't. I mean, I'm like looking for a relationship for sure, but I'm not attaching it to kids right now. I feel like if there's a right time with the right partner, it's gonna happen. If it doesn't happen, it's okay too. I have
Mm.
so many friends that don't have kids, and I think I just happily could join them. But either or will work out for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Either way, you're going to be happy. So,
Exactly.
how do you define freedom?
Well, I think I mentioned it earlier already, just like the freedom of time and location to choose where you want to be, making your own choices, not depending on a job, on a partner. I mean, you can make still location, I mean, decisions together with a partner. Yeah, it's probably like a feeling inside of you as well. It's
Mm.
like freedom means also not being, this going a little bit deeper right now, but not being guided by just your subconscious or unhealed subconscious. As we all know, there's like a deeper layer to all of us where first 7 years of our childhood is like where we're learning our conditioning, we're getting the conditioning from our families and around us. And I think one of the biggest or important missions of every single human being, or like I'm striving to be like better every single day, is that working and healing those wounds that have created certain habits or
Mm.
limiting beliefs. And I also do believe that freedom lies a lot in that, of like not being on an autopilot and flying through the world or like navigating the world on like old wounds, but rather having the choice to decide how you rather want to be.
Absolutely. It's the freedom from our own selves. So, freedom from the
Mm,
external world. And what I
yeah,
hear from you is freedom also from our own selves, from our own
exactly.
internal
So yeah,
world.
there's like the probably two layers, almost like the tip of the iceberg of like what you can touch regarding like time and location, what we talked about, of like where you want
Mm.
to be and like how you want to design your life, is like all the surface level stuff. But I think this biggest freedom lies actually in the bottom below, which is talk a lot with my clients about as well when they uncover of like, I want to start a business, like how am I going to do it? And it's like they look at, okay, cool, like I want to be here, but like right now I'm there, and what's holding me back to actually getting there, and then uncovering all these blocks of like why you're not doing what you want to do.
Mm.
And I think there's a lot of freedom of like working through the things that like holding you back from where you want to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once you work on them, you feel super light and energy just comes and
Mm.
you can do whatever you want. So, this is a deep question, but I think I can ask you this deep question. What's your purpose in life? Have you defined this for you?
Connecting people through the things I love. Just love seeing people thrive. I take a lot of out of it as well energetically. I think connecting people from like all different kind of areas through like one thing. For example, at the moment we're building like a paddle club, like paddle in the sense of the mix of tennis and squash, a racquetball sport.
Yeah.
Paddle club in Cape Town. People from all environments come together. And they all come together to play this one sport. And I in awe of just like how everyone can like function well in the space together when they just have one thing in common, and how that eliminates borders and judgments. And it's just nice. I feel it's just bringing people closer together and spreading more love than hate for sure.
Mm.
So yeah, so at the beginning I was doing it with Wi-Fi Tribe and like bringing international people together through travel. Now it's through sports, at the same time through the coaching as well. Yeah, I think
So
yeah, just
beautiful.
building communities is something I thrive in.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Yeah. This connection, this value of connection
Mhm.
is coming back really strong. So let's imagine a woman who's listening to this podcast episode and she's in her corporate job, maybe a little bit bored with her tasks, and she feels in her heart that she wants more freedom, but she's still in her corporate job. Is still in a job that she doesn't like, potentially in a city that maybe she doesn't like so much. So she's still there. What advice would you say, would you give to this woman who's in that space and she really wants more freedom?
First of all, you are not crazy for wanting more. It is okay to dream big. And saying you want to leave your job and you're unhappy in it and you want to leave the city where you're in is nothing crazy, because so many people have done it before. And if so many other people have done it before, someone like else can do it as well. And so can you. So that inner voice whispering like, this isn't it, is just like your truth inside of you getting louder and louder. And you don't want to shove it under the rug, but rather think about how can I make a plan to get to where I want to be. So do a little assessment. What are the skills that I have? What do you really like? What are you passionate about? So if you say, I don't want to do this job anymore, what else would you like to do? Is there like a way that like the skills that you already have, can you transition them to something else? And is there a chance to even make a little digital nomad fund or remote work fund? And when I started most of my businesses, I worked also on the weekend. It sounds awful for some people, but if that's something that's going to liberate you, something that moves you closer to what you actually want, you're going to make space and time for it. And you're going to come up with a strategy, because as much as like you're dreaming big, a dream still needs a plan. So let's make a plan for the dreams. Like, what's your roadmap? What are the things that you need to get done to get there? So let's say in 6 months from now, you want to be on the road. What does that mean? How can you build another business? And it doesn't need like a website or a lot of branding. It's like, what's a simple thing? And how can you get clients? It's like talking to friends, talking to neighbors, posting in like communities around you, maybe making even a little flyer and putting up at the shop next to the bakery. Like, you don't have to go crazy, or like write little messages in WhatsApp groups. Like, marketing doesn't have to be like insane. And I personally got probably 90% of my clients, and even like including investors, through word of mouth. I was like, that's the easiest. Word of mouth, like people recommending you, people like that you worked with before, they can like offer. If you want to have old clients and talk to them, it's like, hey, can you give me a little testimonial? They will give you a testimonial. There's no reason why they wouldn't if you've done great work. I think starting with those little micro moves. But if you say currently is a season of responsibility, I can't do 6 months from now, maybe it's like a year from now, but I'm feeling awful of where I am, then maybe think about what are the things that fuel you, what fills your own cup, and what do you think you are going to have when you want that life a year later? And how can you embed pieces of that already into your lifestyle right now? So maybe what are little micro adventures that you can do? Is there something where you can explore the area and like go to the woods, or like have a little cabin weekend? Can you meet up with friends and plan a little adventure together? Is there a way you can join a club, like an outdoor club, what we talked about earlier, depending on where you stay? Like, is there a running club? Is it like a yoga thing? Is there, you can go with people for a swim and like do a cold plunge in the morning if you're by the ocean. But what are these little things that you can do to fuel yourself? You say, even want to go a little step further, there's so many co-living spaces out there right now. There's so much infrastructure that didn't exist when I was in your shoes. So you easily could say, instead of booking 2 weeks of a holiday to Greece, why don't you try to book 2 weeks in a co-living place and try to experience sitting there with your laptop, working on your business, and being surrounded by people that already live it. I do believe that we are like the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So if you are in an environment that is super anti what you want and what you're dreaming, chances that you're not really moving forward because you're having so much doubt is quite high. So getting out of that environment and going to a space where everyone's going to cheer for you and clap for you and say, like, this is amazing what you're doing, chances of succeeding are like so much higher. So even looking for online communities that you connect with is like one way, like an easiest way of finding like-minded people. Absolutely. Because you're not a black sheep. There's so many people out there that want exactly what you want.
Absolutely. And I think it's also a lot in our generation, millennials, we really want this kind of freedom, and you're definitely not alone. At least you have Julia, me, and a bunch of other people that we know and we can point you. And I think it's also really important what you said, like, you're not crazy for wanting more. Because I see this a lot sometimes in my clients where they're like, but everything is okay right now. Like, I have a job, maybe they're in a relationship, and they're like, if I want more, maybe this is ungrateful of me.
Yeah.
But in reality, thank you so much for giving them also that validation of saying, you're not crazy.
Most of the people I'm working with, the only thing they need to hear or like need to get is permission. They want permission to live the lifestyle they want. It's like, yes, you happily can have the permission. There's like thousands, 100,000, millions of people out there that exactly do that. And it is not easy because we are always scared of the unknown. We don't know what it holds. And there's probably so many questions in your head, but there's people that have done it all. There's people that figure it out. So the best advice usually for someone, if you want to start something new, is to seek support and help in someone that's done it before. I mean, you can ask Mercedes, you can ask me, but there's also so many other people that like build businesses or teach remote work or try to help you to get a remote job. Like you don't have to build your own business right away. You could also say, okay, let me go to these job platforms and look for a job that offers like a remote position. If you have like a US job, very often that requires you to be in the same time zone, but there's also other jobs that like allow you to travel around. So that's a different route you can go if you don't want to build your own business.
Yes, and you can have the stability of working for a company, which sometimes it's also nice, to know that you're going to get the same check month after month. And some people thrive in that type of environment. And it's important to consider also how much variety we want and how much, like variety do we want or not. So you can still work in a corporate job, but remotely. So you get the freedom lifestyle, but you also get the safety from having a corporate job. And I think this for every person is going to take a different form, because we all have different, I see it as a spectrum of variety, stability and variety. And we are all at very unique points within that spectrum. So knowing what you know now, after all of these years of freedom, first as a nomad, now with a more stable life in Cape Town, if you could go back in time to your early 20s when you said, okay, I'm going to take my Lenovo and I'm going to go around the world. I love the image. I can totally see it. Knowing what you know now, would you do something different or would you do it exactly the same?
I loved all the experiences I had, from good or bad. I mean, that made me who I am today. If I could look back, I was like, okay, some of the moments been very painful, but also that led to certain changes. I would have loved to be a bit more present, probably. And as I mentioned before, process my emotions more. But on the other side, I'm just like, that was the 20s. That's what it was all about. I mean, I don't have any regrets right now. Yeah, but if I have like if I would tell, if my future self tells like my younger version, I'm just like practicing and getting more into like the grounding, starting to do the work, like working with my shadows and my limiting beliefs earlier. I have clients now that are like 19, 20 years old. I was like, damn. Some people like don't do the work into their 30s and 40s. Like I can't even imagine if you're like 20 and you're doing it now already, how beautiful it is and how much more aligned you can live. I think, yeah, anything that you have resistance around, step into that even further, because that's like the way. Like I feel that the way through is the way.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing all of this. It's been a very super inspiring conversation. I'm sure the listeners are going to absolutely love all of this. Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
It's been a true joy. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. So where can listeners find you online?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram. I am Julia Kallweit. So you can find me there. Then my friend Krista and I running a business together. It's called the Digital Nomad Life Academy. So you can find us there too. And then the matching website as well. And yeah, or just like, shoot me a message. If you have a question, I'm here. Happy to answer all the questions or connect. So yeah, just let me know.
Absolutely. And I love to finish every episode with 3 rapid fire questions. So the first thing that comes to mind will be the right one. Are you ready?
All right.
Okay, the first one is, when was the last time you felt bliss?
Bliss. On the beach, by the ocean, yesterday, when I went for a cold plunge.
So beautiful. If you could choose one idea that fundamentally changed your life, what would it be?
One idea that fundamentally changed my life. If you'll never, never go, you'll never, never know. It's a quote I got from like an Australian friend I met traveling. And she told me that when we were walking around the Victoria Falls in Zambia. And for some reason, that has been one of my favorite quotes that I learned from someone. Meaning, you can dream about something for so long, but if you don't take action on it, you don't know what it's going to be like. So even if something is uncomfortable, you don't want to do it. And I do the practice that still in my day-to-day life. If I want to do that, at least do a thing for 2 seconds. And then if you don't want to continue, you can let it go. But at least like give it a try.
And have nothing, what if this could have been something?
Just like do it. And same with like new ideas or businesses. Like don't be as scared of failing. I would say also leave the word failing out of your like strike it out of your vocabulary and replace it with pivoting. If something doesn't work, you pivot. There is no failing because you always try your best. There is no failure. So I was like, cool, this doesn't work out. Cool, I'm pivoting to something else, or I'm changing the strategy, or in business, like, oh, this didn't work out. That's okay. Let's do something else. Always like A/B testing your life, and
Absolutely.
until you find something that's aligned.
Absolutely. I love this. I love this reframe. And if you could choose one rule that everybody in the world needs to obey, what would it be?
You're gonna laugh now, but my first thought went to food.
Okay, please go ahead.
And I thought my first thing was like everyone needs to have like an ice cream for dessert. So I was like unfiltered version. I would say apparently I'm total sweet tooth. Dessert is my so I even like when I go to a restaurant, I first look at the dessert menu to see if I need to alter my main course and my appetizer choices to make sure if I should fit the dessert in or not. So I thought that's
it.
a life. That's a life
I
hack.
love it.
You don't want to look at the dessert menu like after you had your main. It's like, oh god, I ate too much. So you want to like adjust it. So maybe should I eat a salad and then eat dessert, or should I eat like there's no salad so you can add the proper main? So, yeah, but I feel like ice cream for
love
everyone.
I love this rule. I would definitely agree with this rule. I love ice cream as well and desserts. I love it. Thank you so much, Julia, for this conversation. It's been a true joy to discuss this with you. I feel also, like expanded after this conversation. So thank you so much. We have so
I
much
feel
to.
time has been just flying by. I'm just like, what happened?
We've been here for an hour and went by so fast. Thank you so much
Take a
for
photo
all your.
together before
Yes,
you're disappearing because I forgot about it the other day when we had the workshop. So, especially knowing that we've been to like know each other for like such a long time now. Sweet.
Amazing. I will
Thank you so
see my
much.
listeners in the next episode. And in the meantime, in Blisstopia we trust.